The void in Sector 9 was quiet. Too quiet for a region usually dense with merchant traffic. Commander Rath Voxer, the Direphone Dominion, stood on the bridge of his war cruiser Ironhowl, his armor claws resting on the tactical rail, as he studied the drifting stars. The Direphone were a predatory species, built for conquest. Their thick, mineral-plated hides could deflect small-caliber rounds, and their forelimbs ended in naturally curved bone talons capable of tearing apart steel in close-quarters boarding actions. For decades, they had dominated this frontier, taking tribute from every species they considered soft-skinned. A sensor officer turned from her console, her scale brows narrowing as she double-checked her screen. "Commander, long-range scanners have isolated a lone vessel moving through the sector. Heat signature consistent with Terran engineering." Rat's fanged jaw flexed, forming the Direphone equivalent of a grin. "A Terran ship? Alone?" His voice held amused disbelief. "They rarely wander without escorts." "They do now," said First Blade Karaf Vern, the older, scar-scarred officer who had fought in more than 40 raids. His single remaining eye glimmered. "But we've never hunted them directly. They fight irregularly, unpredictably." Wrath waved a hand dismissively. Unpredictability matters little when facing superior firepower. He brought up the ship profile. Designation, Caliban's Mercy. Officially listed as a mid-capacity freight hauler. Karaf leaned in. Terran freighters usually hide reinforced bulkheads. They don't build anything lightly. "Even if true," Wrath replied, "they cannot outrun or outgun us. We are the Direphone. Let them tremble." He motioned to the helmsman. "Signal the pack." All ships converge on the prey. The Dominion Strike Group, for heavy raiders and Wrath's flagship, adjusted course. Their engines burned blue-white, predatory and eager. Far ahead, the Caliban's Mercy drifted silently, a boxy silhouette outlined against starlight. Its hull bore plain civilian markings. On the bridge, Captain Alyssa Reeve took a slow sip from a battered steel mug. A former strategic officer in the Terran Outer Defense, she had retired 5 years ago, at least officially. Her frame was compact but hardened, dark hair tied back in a short knot. Her uniform sleeves rolled up like she was ready to fix the ship herself if needed. "Captain," said her sensor technician, "we've got incoming. 5 Dominion vessels, heavy signatures. Closing fast." Alyssa set the cup aside. Distance? 4.3 million kilometers. Speed increasing. Her chief engineer, Elias Dorn, straightened from his console. "That's not a patrol. They're forming a hunting wedge." Alyssa nodded slowly. "Then they're not here by coincidence." Elias exhaled. "We heading to the Vanguard wreck field as planned? How long until we reach it?" 21 minutes at current thrust. I can redline the drives and trim it to 16, maybe 15 if nothing melts." "Do it," she said. "Notify the crew. Secure all modules and go to high acceleration readiness." She keyed the ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is Reeve. Hostile Dominion vessels inbound. Combat readiness protocol Theta Red. This is not a drill." Below deck, sealed cargo containers thumped as maglocks disengaged. 3 crew members, ex-soldiers all. Open crates that definitely did not contain trade goods. Inside were hardened combat suits, compact coil guns, and sealed cases marked Terror Defense Directive. Authorization required. On the Ironhowl, Wrath observed the Terran ship accelerate. "They flee," he said, amused. "As they should." His weapons officer asked, "Shall we issue a warning volley?" "Do it." 3 lances of crimson plasma cut across the void, passing close enough to the Caliban's Mercy to superheat her shields but not strike them. A clear message. Alyssa watched the plasma streaks from her command display. "They want us scared." Elias muttered, "Not our style, Captain." "Not today," she agreed. The Dominion pack spread into a classic encirclement formation, a trap used countless times. Alyssa recognized it instantly. Typical Direphone tactic. Works on merchants. Her voice hardened. "Not us." Approaching the wreck field, the helmsman confirmed. Alyssa strapped in. "Good. Activate passive concealment. No lights, no broadcasts. Once we're in, prepare the field. The Caliban's Mercy surged into the labyrinth of derelict hulls and shattered frigates known as the Vanguard wreck field. Behind them, the dire Fong hunters followed, unaware they were stepping into a battlefield prepared weeks in advance. The Vanguard wreck field was a graveyard of forgotten wars. Twisted armor plating, shattered cruiser hulls, broken weapons arrays, and jagged metal drifting like ancient ghosts. It stretched across nearly 5,000 kilometers, a chaos zone where even experienced navigators hesitated to fly. Commander Wrath Voxer felt no hesitation. The dire Fong Dominion believed the wreck field to be nothing more than dead metal, dangerous, yes, but only to the unskilled. To the dire Fong, danger was simply another arena to demonstrate superiority. On the Iron Howl, the sensor officer announced, "Prey is slowing. Their engine signature is dipping. Power fluctuations detected." Wrath grinned. "They are panicking. Move in. Prepare to disable their drives." First Blade Koroth frowned, his single eye narrowing as he reviewed data. "Commander!" The Terran vessel went dark too quickly. No distress beacons. No shield spike. That looks like intentional shutdown. Wrath scoffed. Terrans are reckless. They improvise often. Perhaps their systems overloaded. Or, Koroth said slowly, they are hiding something. "Enough!" Wrath growled. "Ready boarding talons and breaching lances. Once we get within 500 meters, we—" His words stopped as he noticed something strange. The Caliban's Mercy drifted silently, its silhouette swallowed by the shadows of dead capital ships. Lights off, engines frozen. A civilian ship pretending to be a corpse. "Commander!" the sensor officer said again, voice tightening. "I'm detecting dozens of objects in the wreck field around us. They are waking." Wrath leaned forward, expression shifting. "Waking?" Korotha's voice dropped to a whisper. "This is a trap." Inside the Caliban's Mercy, the ship's bridge was lit only by the glow of tactical maps. Captain Alyssa Reeve watched the Dominion hunters enter the kill zone she had prepared over 3 previous runs through this sector. "How many assets responding?" she asked. Her tactical officer replied, "All of them, Captain. 42 proximity, drones activating. Shield penetration charges loading." Elias Dorn cracked his knuckles. "They look like wreckage, but they're dormant defense units. Modified scrap tech. Dominion scanners won't pick them up until they're moving." Alyssa allowed herself a rare, thin smile. "Good. Keep the Mercy cold. No signatures. Let them think we're disabled." Her eyes flicked to the screen as the dire Fong fleet tightened its formation, unaware of the automated mines drifting just meters from their hulls. First contact. The first mine, the size of a duffel bag but carrying a tungsten penetrator core, activated, locked onto thermal output, and sprinted toward the nearest Dominion striker. Wrath saw it too late. A blazing white explosion tore through the flank of the Raider bloodbound Fong. Its armor peeled away like paper. Escape pod shot outward in panic. "Ambush!" the weapons officer roared. "Raise full shields. Counterfire. Destroy anything moving." Wrath bellowed. But the Vanguard defense units moved faster. The second Raider banked hard, tried to dodge incoming objects, but 4 shaped charge mines struck its shield grid simultaneously. The barrier flickered, failed, and a 5th mine rammed directly into its central keel. The ship blossomed into a silent fireball. Koroth slammed a claw against the tactical display. "Commander, this is coordinated. Terran traps don't come in random clusters. This is a pre-planned kill zone." Wrath's pride shattered beneath the realization. Countermeasures. All ships. Fire on every. He never finished. A cascade of 30 mines activated together, lighting up the wreck field like a chain of miniature supernovas. Alyssa's moment. Watching the destruction from the Mercy's bridge, Alyssa gave a steady command. "Not yet. Let them burn their ammunition. Keep transmitting false engine failure data. Maintain cold profile." Her tactical officer nodded. "The Dominion is firing at debris. They're panicking." "Good." Alyssa said, "That means they're predictable." Below deck, Her trained crew equipped combat armor, sealed bulkheads, and armed zero-G rifles. They moved like a small infantry squad, not a civilian crew. They weren't merchants. They never had been. They were Terran military veterans disguised as civilians. Dire fawned desperation. On the Iron Howl, alarm screamed. "We've lost 2 ships," the center officer yelled. "A third is heavily damaged, engine failure." Wrath pounded the railing. "They're tricking us. This isn't a freighter. This is a covert military escort." "No," Karaf corrected grimly. "This is worse. This is clever Terran engineering. They hid the entire trap inside the wreck field." Wrath's voice dropped to a growl. "Then we break through, charge the Terran vessel. But the mines, we go through them. Dominion does not retreat." And so the remaining ships began pushing forward, shields flaring as more mines detonated around them. Alyssa leaned forward. "Time to wake the Mercy," she said. "All systems hot. Bring us online." The ship's lights flared back to life. The dire fawn hunters had no idea what waited next. The Caliban's Mercy roared back to life. Not slowly, not cautiously, but with the precision of a trained warship hiding inside a freighter's hull. Its drives ignited in a blue-white flare, burning away the illusion of helplessness. Commander Rav Voxer watched the sudden flare with disbelief. "That vessel is executing combat maneuvers," he growled. "Freighters don't turn like that." First Blade Koroth didn't answer at first. He was too busy staring at the comms log. "They let us approach. They shut down their systems intentionally. They drew us into the kill zone. Commander, we walked into it willingly." Wrath slammed his fist against the command chair. "Enough commentary. All ships. Focus fire on the Terran craft. Disable their engines before they escape. Aboard the Caliban's Mercy." Alyssa Reeve dropped into her command seat, tightening her harness as G-forces pressed against her. The bridge lights glowed crimson under combat protocols. "Status," she snapped. "Power grid steady," Elias reported. "Weapon ports opening. Modified cutting lasers online. Rail batteries primed." The Mercy had no official weapons, but unofficial was a very different category. Her tactical officer rotated firing arcs. Dominion cruisers tightening formation. Classic choke net. Alyssa nodded. "They think they can box us in." She keyed the ship-wide channel. "All hands, prepare for hostile fire. And remember, Dominion warriors prefer intimidation over strategy. They'll try to crush us quickly." The crew replied with crisp affirmatives. No fear, only readiness. The first strike, the moment the dire fawn cruisers aligned, they unleashed coordinated plasma fire. 3 beams converging on the Mercy's position. "Shields up," Alyssa commanded. The Mercy's improvised shield array, built from repurposed mining capacitors, flared with violent blue ripples. The beams splashed across the hardened hull plating, but didn't punch through. "Shields at 67%, the defense officer reported. Alyssa didn't flinch. She leaned forward, returned fire. The ship's mining lasers were never meant for combat. Until Elias Dorn spent 2 weeks modifying them with plasma stabilizers, crystal focusing rings, and power overclock relays. Their beams snapped across the void, thin but intensely concentrated. Alyssa called out targeting orders. Hit their maneuvering fins. Not the armor. Make them sluggish. The Mercy carved glowing slashes along the flank of the nearest dire fawn cruiser, cutting through external control surfaces and venting gas from auxiliary thrusters. "They're losing lateral control," the helmsman shouted. The Dominion ship wobbled, compensating with emergency thrusters. Elias grinned. "Told you this would work." The Dominion strikes back. On the Iron Howl, Wrathvoxer's fury reached a breaking point. They modified industrial lasers into weapons? That's impossible. Karaf growled. "Terrans fight with whatever they have. They reinvent the battlefield every time." "Then we adapt. Override fire protocols. Full power to forward guns." For dire fawn cruisers opened fire with maximum output, the combined blast hitting the Mercy like a hammer. Alyssa's bridge rocked violently. Shields down to 40%. Hull plating warming. A second salvo slammed into them. Sparks burst from control panels. "Helm, drop 2 degrees vertical," Alyssa commanded, staying calm despite alarms. "Make them overshoot." The Mercy dove under the beams, threading between shattered cruiser hulls drifting in the wreck field. The diaphragm weapons carved glowing scars into dead capital ships, but missed her. Terran counterattack. Alyssa's eyes locked onto the tactical hologram. "Target the cruiser at starboard." "Elias, load coil battery beta." Elias hesitated. "That's our last full-strength rail magazine." "It only needs to happen once," she replied. The modified railguns were mounted inside freight launch tubes. When they fired, the entire ship vibrated. "Mark!" Alyssa ordered. A tungsten dart the size of her fist launched at hypersonic speed. It streaked across the void and slammed into the diaphragm cruiser's shield node. A blinding flash. Then the shield collapsed like shattered glass. The second slug slammed straight into the cruiser's hull, punching through armor and detonating inside the internal coolant lines. A column of vaporized metal vented into space. The Dominion ship spiraled out of formation, bleeding energy and debris. On the Iron Howl, Wrath roared. And oh, that was a veteran warship. How is this possible? Koroth answered with the grim weight of truth. "Commander, they aren't merchants. They're soldiers." The wolves close in. Alyssa watched the damaged Dominion cruiser drifting. 1 threat down. 3 remained. Her tactical officer looked to her. "Captain, they're adapting. Their next pass will be coordinated. They will try to overwhelm us." Alyssa nodded. "Then we don't let them choose the terms." She stood, voice steady and commanding. "Prepare for boarding defense. They'll try to breach our hull when guns fail." Elias blinked. "Already? That's soon." "They're diaphragm," she replied. "If they can't cripple a ship from the outside, they'll claw through the inside." She tapped the comm panel. "All decks, armed for zero-G combat. Seal bulkheads. Full internal lockdown. We hold them here. Because the next attacks wouldn't come from plasma cannons. They would come from diaphragm warriors tearing their way inside the Mercy, the most feared close-quarters fighters in the sector. The Caliban's Mercy drifted between 2 massive wrecked cruisers, its hull scarred, its shields flickering, its improvised weapons running hot. On the exterior, she looked dangerously close to collapse. Inside, however, the crew prepared for the kind of battle most civilian ships never imagined. A red alert washed over the corridors as bulkheads sealed off section by section. Combat harnesses locked into place. Rifles, pulse carbines, breaching shields, and zero-gravity grapples were distributed from hidden armories. Chief Engineer Elias Dorn slammed shut the last override panel and strapped into his armored suit. "They'll be through the outer hull any minute," he warned. "Combat scanners show for approach vectors." Captain Alyssa Reeve tightened her gloves. "Dominion doctrine," she said. "Cripple ship, board ship, break crew, take trophies." Her tactical officer added, "Their warriors fight like living battering rams. Once their claws are in the hull, they don't stop." Alyssa nodded. "That's why we meet them with discipline, not rage." She keyed ship-wide comms. "All hands, this is Reeve. The diaphragm boarding claws will hit our hull in less than 60 seconds. Hold your lines. Fight only in your assigned sectors. Do not pursue into unsecured corridors." Around the ship, her crew exhaled, tightened grips, braced, and waited. Diaphragm boarding tactics. On the Iron Howl, Wrath Voxer prepared his warriors. Massive diaphragm troopers armored in overlapping bone steel plating, carrying impact mauls, plasma cutters, and claw pivots for close-quarters grappling. Wrath snarled over the comm. "We take that ship whole. We rip out the heart of its captain and mount it in the Hall of Dominion." Koroth Vern, still cautious, growled, "Commander, their defenses have already proven." "Enough!" Wrath's voice thundered. "We are diaphragm. We do not lose the prey." He pointed at the drifting Terran vessel. "Begin breaches. All pods launch." Impact. For armored boarding pods blasted from the remaining Dominion cruisers. They streaked across the void like iron arrows, slamming into the Mercy's hull with bone-shaking force. Thud, 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 tum. The ship rumbled as metal buckled under the impact. The pods latched onto the hull, drilling molten circles into the armor. Alyssa steadied herself. They're cutting through. Brace. In Cargo Wing B-12, the first plasma cutter sliced a searing orange ring through the inner plating. A circular hull segment fell inward, clanging against the deck. A diaphragm warrior pushed through the smoke, towering, with mineral plates glittering in the emergency lights. Its breathing was deep, predatory. Its fortolone hands flexed, ready to tear. But instead of panicked civilians, it faced Terran veterans behind hardened cargo cover, rifles leveled. "Drop it!" yelled Corporal Lexa Hayden. She fired first. Close quarters combat. The corridor erupted. Terran rifles spat kinetic bursts that cracked against bone steel armor. The diaphragm warrior forced his way forward, each step a thunderous stomp, claws absorbing rounds like stubborn shields. Then a slug from a heavy support carbine shattered its knee plating. The warrior buckled just enough. "Grenade!" someone yelled. A microcharge bounced at the diaphragm's feet. A concussive blast hurled it backward, slamming it into the breach ring. Two more diaphragm vaulted through the opening, roaring. This time the Terrans fell back with military precision, drawing them deeper into a kill corridor lined with crossfire points. Corridor E9 Elias Line. Elias Dorn and two others met the second boarding pod's breach team head-on. A diaphragm slammed into Elias, its claws scraping sparks off his chest plate. He kicked off the floor, using 0G to redirect the monster's momentum into the wall. "Move!" he shouted. His teammate fired a shock lance, an improvised tool rewired for war. The electric arc hit the diaphragm square in the chest, locking its muscles long enough for Elias to drive a cutting torch under its plated jaw. It convulsed once and went still. Another diaphragm forced itself through the breach, but met a pressure-hardened shield and pulse shots to its joints, dropping in the doorway. Alyssa's front. The largest breach occurred near Command Alley. Alyssa herself was there. When the inner hull tore open, a diaphragm champion barreled through, easily a head taller than the rest. Its armor was darker, thicker, trophies drilled into its plates. It roared and swung a heavy impact maul toward Alyssa. She sidestepped, pivoting with trained efficiency. The maul slammed into a bulkhead, denting it deeply. Alyssa fired a burst directly into its sensory ridges. The rounds cracked armor, but didn't penetrate. The champion lunged. Alyssa dropped low, hooked her boot under a floor rail, and used zero gravity to sling herself upward, driving both combat knives into the creature's throat seam, one of the few weak points. The diaphragm staggered, choking. Alyssa pressed her helmet to its ear slit and whispered, "Wrong ship." She pulled the blades free. The champion collapsed. Aftermath of the breach. 10 minutes later, the ship shook with the last dying impacts. Smoke drifted through the corridors. Sparks crackled from damaged plating. Terramedics worked quickly. 20 diaphragm invaders lay dead. 2 remained alive, barely, stripped of weapons, bound and sedated. Alyssa's crew suffered 6 injuries, none fatal. Her tactical officer approached. "Captain, we repelled all boarders. They lost every assault team." Alyssa nodded grimly. "They'll understand now. We aren't prey." But outside the Mercy, 3 Dominion cruisers remained, and Commander Rathvoxer, furious, humiliated, and wounded in pride, was preparing something far worse than a boarding attempt. Smoke still clung to the air inside the Caliban's Mercy, drifting lazily in the low gravity. The ship groaned from torn plating and ruptured conduits, but the crew held their lines, bloody, bruised, breathing hard, but standing. Captain Alyssa Reeve walked through the corridor with the steady posture of someone who had survived worse battles. Her boots crunched over fragments of diaphragm armor as medtechs rushed past carrying wounded crew. "Status," she demanded when she reached the bridge. Her tactical officer responded immediately. "We've sealed all breach points. Internal atmosphere stabilized. We lost structural integrity in 2 cargo wings, but the firewalls held." Elias Dorn wiped sweat and carbon from his brow. "Weapon systems are overheating. The modified lasers need cooldown. Rail batteries are nearly dry." Alyssa narrowed her eyes at the tactical display, showing 3 remaining Dominion cruisers circling like vultures. "They're not retreating," she muttered. "No, Captain." Her officer pointed to 3 blinking signatures. "They're repositioning. I think they're preparing coordinated saturation fire." Alyssa inhaled slowly. "So, they're done toying. They want to drown us in plasma." Elias grumbled. "We can't trade broadsides with 3 cruisers. We'd be lucky to survive 5 volleys." Alyssa nodded. "We won't survive 5 volleys. That's why we won't sit still and take any." She turned to helm. "Bring us between the wrecks. Hard cover only. Maximum evasive burn." The ship lurched into motion, weaving through skeletal hulls of dead giants. On the iron hull, Commander Raph Voxer watched the aftermath of the failed boarding operation with jaw-clenched fury. The bodies of Diaphon warriors floated outside, lifeless trophies the Terrans had rejected. His pride felt flayed. "Prepare coordinated fire pattern Omega," Raph snarled. "We crushed them, this time with overwhelming force." First Blade Karoff Vern clenched a fist. "Commander, I advise against close pursuit in the wreck field. They maneuver better than we do. They fight as though they have been here before." Raph rounded on him. "They have shamed the Diaphon Dominion. Karoff, they slaughtered our warriors and repelled our claws. I will not report failure. Not here. Not ever." Karoff lowered his gaze, knowing pride, not strategy, now guided Raph's decisions. "Pattern Omega," Raph repeated. The Dominion cruisers realigned, each moving to a different angle of attack, forming a triangular kill box around the Mercy. Their plasma capacitors charged, glowing with lethal intensity. Karoff whispered to himself, "You stubborn fool, you are about to learn the difference between prey and predators." Inside the wreck field, the Mercy's engine screamed as the ship rolled sharply to avoid a collapsing battleship hulk. "Plasma buildup detected," shouted Tactical. All 3 cruisers charging heavy cannons. Alyssa didn't blink. "They want to pin us between converging beams. But they forget something." She pointed to glowing debris fields around them. "This entire wreck field is a weapon." Elias' eyes widened. "You're thinking of a hull shield reflection arc?" "Exactly. That will cook us alive if the timing's off." Alyssa smiled thinly. "Then don't get the timing wrong." The first salvo. The 3 Dominion cruisers fired simultaneously. 3 blazing pillars of plasma converged toward the Mercy. No single ship could take that and survive. Alyssa yelled, "Helm! Roll 30 degrees port, now!" The ship spun, slipping behind the curved belly plating of an ancient battleship hull. The plasma beams hit the wreck, and refracted along the metal curvature like light along a mirror. The redirected beams arced across the void, and smashed into one of Raph's own cruisers. The impact tore through shields, armor, and decks in one catastrophic chain of explosions. Karoff stared, horrified. They used the wreck as a plasma diverter. Raph's eyes bulged. "No, they got lucky. That was chance." Karoff said nothing. He didn't need to. Raph was lying to himself. Terran counterstroke. Alyssa exhaled and gave the next order calmly. "Elias, prepare the drone cases. We're deploying the last of them." Elias blinked. "Captain, that's 20 interceptor drones. If we launch all of them now—" "We end this now," she interrupted. "Or we don't survive the next volley." Her tactical officer opened the armor deployment chambers. The Mercy peeled open like a mechanical flower. 20 combat drones, triangular, silent, built from scavenged military chassis, launched into the void. Their thrusters burned cold blue as they accelerated. Alyssa commanded, "Swarm pattern Sigma. Disrupt their firing arcs." The drones separated, each becoming a tiny, independent predator. They converged on the Dominion cruisers like a metal storm. Dominion desperation. Raph Voxer roared, "Shoot them down. Every one of those accursed machines." But the drones zigzagged with unpredictable maneuvers. Terran algorithms favoring chaos patterns. Missiles streaked from 4 drones, smashing into the iron howl's starboard plating. 2 drones rammed directly into another cruiser's sensor array, blinding it. A 3rd cruiser's guns overheated as it tried firing too rapidly at the swarm. Karoff looked at Raph. We must retreat. Now! Wrath snarled but did not answer. He was still trying to force a victory, still refusing to accept what every surviving Dominion crewman already knew. They had underestimated humans, and they were paying for it in blood and metal. The Caliban's Mercy tore through the last layer of drifting wreckage, its hull scorched, its systems strained, but its spirit unbroken. Beyond the debris field, the stars opened into a cleaner void, an exit corridor from the Vanguard region. Behind the Mercy, 3 Dominion cruisers burned, staggered, or spun out of formation. One was heavily damaged. One was blind. One, the Iron Howl, fought on through sheer stubborn pride. On the Mercy's bridge, Alyssa Reeve watched the tactical display with quiet intensity. "Status on the drones?" she asked. Her tactical officer replied. 13 left, 7 shot down. They're still disrupting the cruiser's firing arcs. Elias snapped the burnt cable back into its socket. "Our shield grid is holding by stubbornness and prayer. We can't keep trading fire forever." "We won't need to," Alyssa said softly. She tapped the comm panel. "All crew, brace for final engagement. We're ending this." A diaphone reckoning. On the Iron Howl, Commander Raph Voxer slammed his fist into the console hard enough to crack it. "The Terran vessel is escaping. Pursue at maximum thrust." First Blade Koros stared at the wreckage ahead of them, drones weaving like blue sparks around the cruiser's bow. "Commander, we cannot pursue. Our heat sinks are overloaded. Shields failing. Hull compromised." Raph bared his fangs. "I will not return home defeated by a Terran merchant ship." The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. Koros stepped closer, speaking low. "This is not a merchant ship. They are military veterans under civilian paint. You misjudged them, and now we face consequences." Wrath shoved them aside. "Prepare forward batteries. We will ram them if we must." But the ship's systems flashed critical warnings. A ramming run now would tear the Iron Howl apart. Wrath roared in frustration, a sound that rattled even hardened warriors. The Mercy turns. On the Terran bridge, Alyssa exhaled once. "Helm," she said quietly. "Bring us about." The helmsman froze. "Captain, you want to turn toward them?" "The Dominion expects prey to flee," Alyssa replied. "We don't." The Caliban's Mercy pivoted in a sweeping, graceful arc, its engines burning hot as the ship swung around to face the crippled Dominion cruisers. Elias stared. "Captain, we're showing them our bow profile. That's the weakest angle." "I know," she said. The Dominion cruisers saw the move immediately. Alyssa opened a direct, wideband channel. "Transmission, open comms." Alyssa's face appeared on every Dominion screen, flickering with static but resolute. "This is Captain Alyssa Reeve of the Terran vessel Caliban's Mercy." Raph Voxer snarled. "You dare broadcast to us? After slaughtering my warriors? After humiliating the Dominion? You!" Alyssa cut him off. "You attacked us without provocation. You chased civilians into a known hazard zone. You boarded our ship intending to kill us. And despite all that, we are offering you a chance to live." Shock rippled through every diaphone bridge crew. Alyssa continued. "We hold drone reserves. We have the high ground outside the wreck field. And your cruisers are bleeding systems." A pause. Then her voice hardened like forged steel. "We are not prey. And we are not here to annihilate you. This is your single chance to withdraw." Karath inhaled sharply. "She is offering mercy." Wrath roared. "Dominion does not accept mercy from soft-skinned humans." Alyssa's eyes narrowed. "Then accept the tactical truth. Commander, if you fire again, we will finish what you started." The choice. Silence flooded the comm channels. Behind Wrath, his crew stared at him, not with admiration, but with fear that he would choose death for all of them. Karath stepped forward. "Commander, we lost. Accept this truth. Live to warn our people." Wrath trembled with rage. His claws dug furrows into the command rail. For a moment, Alyssa thought he would order another attack. Then, the Iron Howl's engines disengaged. Power readings dropped. Weapon ports dimmed. Wrath lowered his head in humiliation. "Terran," he growled reluctantly, We withdraw. Alyssa nodded. Wise decision. She closed the channel. The Dominion cruisers turned slowly, limping toward deep space, their retreat unmistakable. Aftermath. Inside the Mercy, the crew exhaled ragged sighs of relief. Elias slumped into his chair. We lived through that. We actually lived. Alyssa nodded. Damage report? Everything is damaged, he said, laughing tiredly, but fixable. Good. Alyssa said, we have prisoners to return, and a message to deliver. Arrival at Haven Station. 3 days later, the Mercy, battle-scarred and limping, approached the neutral trade station Haven Spire. Traffic control froze when they detected Direfong lifeboats attached to the hull. Docking crews froze again when those lifeboats opened. An injured Dominion warrior stepped out, escorted by Terran medics. Every eye on the station watched. Every voice whispered the same question. How did a Terran freighter defeat 3 Dominion cruisers? Alyssa walked down the docking ramp, stood still on her uniform, chin raised. She wasn't there for applause. She was there to make sure the galaxy learned the truth. Humans weren't the weakest in the void. They weren't prey. They weren't targets. They were survivors. They were strategists. And if you hunted them, you better not miss.